What's going on, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Friends of Mortgage Heroes. I'm Brian.
I'm Will.
And today we are honored to share the room with our guest. He's an 8-time CEO on the Inc. 500. He's accrued over $30 billion in real estate sales, an investor, and a mentor to many. He's an industry disruptor, always pushing the limits forward. Bring out your pens and pads. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm welcome to co-founder and CEO of Big Block Realty, Sam Khorramian. Let's go.
This guy just crushes it, huh? Dude, I was having so much fun. I actually went to sleep at 9 a.m. At 9 p.m. I mean, 9 p.m.
That's
yesterday.
how fun. You just fell asleep an hour ago.
I was like excited. I mean, and thank you, Sam. I was just like so blown away. I was telling my wife, like, I'm nervous. I got to go to sleep early. I mean, this guy, you just make big movements. You're a disruptor. I love that word because that's you. That's what you've created in the real estate industry. I saw you started in 2012. I've heard of Big Block Realty. I have worked with many of your realtor partners, your clients that you treat them well. And man, I'm just so honored and privileged to have you here, Sam. So thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy day because I know you're a busy man. I just appreciate you.
Well, I appreciate you guys inviting me to be here, and thank you for all the kind words. Happy to kind of share some stuff as we go along, but I'll tell you, hearing all these accolades and that wonderful intro, it's awesome, but I'm just like a regular dude, you know? I think actually I'm not that smart, and that has served me well because I'm almost naive or dumb enough to believe I can do some of the stuff that I've done. So yeah, excited to be here.
That's awesome. You know, that's what Mortgage Heroes is all about. We want to build up our community. We want to inspire young kids that are coming in, that are always watching the social media platforms. They think they can't do it, but yet we have you. And you know, I like to start off like everybody thinks college is the biggest thing. How was your college career, by the way?
Yeah,
that's a loaded question. Right? The answer.
You know, I love that because it's like, you know, when everybody decided to go right, you went left.
Yeah. So I went to college really just to chase girls and parties.
Let's go.
My dad, very traditional, and it was like super important for him that I was in college. So I went to Cal State San Marcos, and he's like, hey, if you go to college, like, I'll pay for it. So I had him paying tuition so that the money would leave his account. So he thought I was in college.
Got it.
But I was really not. So in the almost 4 years that I was there, I probably got less than 20 credits.
It's an expensive rent.
But if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have been in the places that I was to end up where I am. So I joined a fraternity and met some of my best friends and now business partners. I met my business partner and co-founder, Oliver, inside of the fraternity.
Nice.
So it was awesome. I had a lot of fun. And in that process, I don't know if we'll get to it, but I was selling phones in the mall.
Gotcha.
Remember those free phone guys?
Oh, yeah. I
Everyone knows
remember.
all
I used
about
to own
it.
a company, Go Wireless Communications, back in, it was 98 for Sprint PCS when they were bringing out the whole corporation thing. So I get it.
Yeah. So I was one of those free phone guys and did relatively well, ended up managing a couple of locations. And then I got secret shopped by a gentleman that ran a second mortgage brokerage. Like
Nice.
Second mortgage loans. Interviewed with him, and I remember after the interview, I was like, man, if I take this job, then I'm for sure not going to college. Like, I'm already not going to college, but if I take this job...
I'm already here.
Yeah.
Pretty much. So that was my kind of my entry into real estate. We were selling 125% loan to value second mortgage.
Wow, that's crazy. I remember those times. That's had to be what, like 2003, 4?
Yeah, right around there.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So that was my college experience. It was a lot of fun.
You know, that's what matters. A lot of times it is what it is. Certain things will pave the way. I always tell like my kids, listen, go to college. You're going to party pretty much 4 years on my tab. Just do what you're supposed to do, you know, and as long as you're doing what you're supposed to do, I'm cool with paying that.
Yeah.
You know, and you're supposed to identify yourself there. You're supposed to surround yourself with other people that are hard workers that have the same inspirations probably as you do, and want to be something. In your case, you were partying, you knew what you wanted to do. It was just you're having too much fun with the other friends and maybe school wasn't for you. There's nothing wrong with that.
Did you ever go back and tell your dad, like, hey, yo, Dad, I didn't go to school, but it was kind of like a blind investment because look at me now?
I did. When I started working at the mortgage company, I didn't tell him that I was out yet. But I remember maybe like 2-3 months in, I forget what it was. It was a big check for a 20-something-year-old.
Got it.
Maybe like $30,000.
Is that it?
That's it. I spent all of it the next weekend on bottle service and parties.
Of course.
So I go to him and I'm like, hey, like, so I did a thing, started working in this mortgage company. Look at this check. And he took it really well. He said, I always knew that you are street smart, not book smart. And I always knew that you were going to be an entrepreneur. So, like, it's all good. And I'm awesome. Glad that you took the steps that you took. So he's always been my biggest fan and my biggest supporter. I for sure would not be where I am mentally and in life and business if I didn't have him as a best friend.
Damn, dude, don't get me emotional. Being a father, bro, those are just like, those are the things accolades that we would love to hear from our kids. So if your dad, you're going to listen to this, man, boy, that's powerful. And I appreciate that you share that. Most dads, we think we're doing the right thing, and you're a father, and you think, and I love your story last week about what you shared with your son. And it's just, how do we transform our kids' minds and how do we support them in what they want to do? That I think is one of the most important things. Is like, don't tell people what you're going to do, your kids, just rather speak with them, communicate with them, and see how you can be more supportive. So that's awesome. Thanks for sharing that. I didn't get that.
To me, like, kids are a blessing, and I've always taken the approach that my father took with me, which is, if I just love them through life, then at least they'll find their way, but they'll keep their head on straight. So I've always just, taken the approach of, I'm going to love them through all the things, and I'm going to be honest with them.
Nice.
And I'm not going to be the typical, like, I'll give you an example. My son got into basketball. He was probably at the time, I'm going to say like 5 years old. And he was not good, but he was 100% convinced that he's going to end up in the NBA.
Let's go.
And still is, and I believe it too. But like in the beginning, I would go to his games and he was terrible. Like, it was just bad.
That's my biggest fear as a father right now. I got 2 kids.
It's hard.
And after the game, he would say like, hey, Dad, what'd you think? And I didn't feel comfortable lying to him and saying, you did a great job.
Ooh.
Like, I couldn't. I refused.
Gotcha.
So instead, I said, I really enjoyed watching you play.
Wow.
Okay.
And I saw that kind of transform the way he looked at the game. And all of a sudden, like, he would go outside and practice on his own. And the idea that he knew that Dad liked to watch him play motivated him even more. And now, the kid, he's a killer. He's so good. I mean, he's at a game.
That's awesome, dude.
Like 40 points in one game at the point, I think he was like 8 years old. So he's committed, and I really allow him to think big and believe in the impossible.
That's awesome.
All that stuff.
I think that's very powerful. The way that you say something has a lot of weight in the way that you say it. Because you could have said the exact same thing with a negative connotation, and then he could have taken that a different way and said, maybe I don't want to play basketball. But those encouraging words that you seeded in him were able to like sprout and say, hey, no, I want to do this. And it's not like you told him to do it. He grew that fire on his own.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That's awesome. Yeah, that communication, the way you communicate, I mean, it comes because you hold your heart in your sleeve, and I noticed that those are things that you actually also do in business. I know we're talking about the whole family, but I'm not trying to move forward on a different subject, but that's what you do with your big block. That's why you're so successful. I wrote here, I got 4 years here, but I think you filed the paperwork. You didn't forget to file the paperwork to get the consecutive year in being one of the top 5,000 companies in the nation. You know,
You're talking about Inc. 500.
Inc. 500. Oh, is it Inc. 500? Yeah.
Yeah. So we ended up on the Inc. 500 our third year. You have to have 3 years of trailing numbers, and that's what they calculate your growth off is a 3-year window.
And then your first year would be that following year.
Your first year is technically your fourth
Yeah.
year, but it's
Got it.
year 1 against year 3.
Because you're all the data. Yeah.
So we applied year 3, and for me, I've always been in seminars. Like, well, my friends were in college becoming doctors and dentists. I'm Persian, so we're bred to like be doctors, attorneys, dentists. Or in real estate. So while they were
We're bred.
while they were in college, I was in seminars. But my point is, somebody came and spoke, and they talked about how their company landed on the Inc. 500 list. And this is before I had a business. I was just trying to learn what the hell I wanted to do with myself. And I was like, dude, that is my biggest goal in business, is to end up on that list.
Dang.
So first time we applied, I was like, man, we'll end up somewhere in the 5,000s.
Yeah.
And they send you like this big box saying you made it. And the first year I'm opening it up and the staff is videotaping, and I read the little letter and it says 26. And in my mind, I'm like, oh, this has to be a misprint.
But I'm not 26.
I'm like, there's no chance we're the 26th fastest growing company in America. So then I'm like, that's a misprint. So I open up the magazine and it's right there in 26. And straight started doing the touchdown dance and,
Heck yeah.
and hollering.
And why not?
Yeah. It was awesome. And again, to me, and I think this is kind of where you were headed with it, one of my biggest philosophies in business is to lead with love. I really do believe that people have so many options of where they're going to work. And when they're in an environment that they feel loved, they feel supported, and as a leader, you're making decisions based off of what's in the best interest for your customer, which in my case is the agents.
Yeah.
That was always just our MO. And that ended up turning into a business that landed up on the Inc. 500 list 8 years in a row. But most of our growth was organic because people would refer their spouse or their friends or whoever. So, yeah.
That's pretty crazy, man. That's pretty wild. So, yeah, I got it here at 26, 31, 33, and 56. Like, that's wild, Sam.
It's pretty wild.
I'm sure I'd be doing some type of dance. Maybe not the football. I don't know. I'll be dancing up to date, you know? So it's pretty cool that you put all that and you're saying you're doing it all with love, growing all this. That's the same thing that you're applying with your son. That's what's keeping him motivated, you know? And it's just great to see the years. Like, I have a 32-year-old. It's incredible. He still likes to hang out with me, you know, which is crazy. I'm like, I try to remember if I wanted to hang out with my mom. I only grew up with my mom. I don't remember feeling like that, you know? Yeah. But our parents brought us to be better than they do, you know? And 100%. So I think that's what you're applying, not only to your personal life, but your business. I mean, Sam, you share so much. You're debunking. You managed to get 26, 31, 33, 56 despite all the naysayers. Like, you created something so different. It's crazy. Like, how did that even come about?
There's a lot there, dude. I'll say that there was a lot of naysayers, and I think that there's two types of people out there, and I'm making a broad statement. There's people that, like, the haters and the naysayers actually get inside of their brain, or there's people that use it as fuel. So for me, like, I love when someone tells me I can't do something. It just motivates me, right? Like, I read a quote years ago that says, my haters are my motivators. So I learned very early on that the moment you allow someone else's opinion of what you're doing to determine where you're headed, then you already lost the game.
Wow.
So
that's a nugget right there, everyone. That's a nugget. That's a nugget.
Clip that, please.
So that was kind of the mindset around it, but it was backed by the proper education, coaching, guidance, etc. So, you know, I've been in seminars and masterminds and having coaches forever. And I always just kind of leaned on my environment, my coach, my groups, my events. And a lot of the things that we put into place were stuff that we saw work in different industries, right? Like we took stuff out of Zappos' book. And we're like, okay, they sell sneakers online, like, but what they really do is they're a customer service company. And if you've ever read the book, it's a phenomenal book. Half of our business plan is built off of Tony Hsieh's book, Delivering Happiness. So we started to just be coachable and listen, pay attention to things that are working, and ask ourselves, how can we start to implement that into the real estate brokerage world? And I just put my head down and worked really hard. Also had a lot of fun. And I always was committed to like being me. I think that a lot of times as an entrepreneur, you attach a label on you that you think is the label you're supposed to have. And I remember, like, I grew up as a Mike Ferry agent. So it was suit and tie Sam for years. Yeah. And that wasn't me, like, was just not me, but I did it because I'm coachable. Yeah. The moment I took that suit and tie off and I had a like red Solo cup and a t-shirt, like it worked. Like I was stepping into my authentic self, and that was resonating with you know, my people, so to speak.
You know, I was going to ask, you know, your dressing style is completely different from any other CEO, right? So you look like a, you know, no offense, like a frat boy that, you know, became a CEO, which is...
Did he just call me a frat boy?
A frat boy.
and in the most positive way possible,
On
bro.
air,
I mean,
on air. We all got it. Yep.
But the thing is that I wanted to ask, how does that give you more confidence, or how does that make you feel better when you're doing business, knowing that you're not putting on this mask, this, you know, persona, and you get to truly be Sam?
Yeah, there's a couple things there. For one, I do believe, I'm certain, in fact, that there is value, unquantifiable value, when you interrupt the pattern of what people are used to or expecting someone to be, right? When two things don't go together, but then they end up working, it's magical, right?
So opposites do attract.
Opposites do
Like
attract.
a beautiful orthodox.
It's kind of like, you know, putting French fries in your In-N-Out milkshake, right?
Hey,
Like,
Dude, it works if you're
should not
pregnant.
work, but
Yeah.
it's good.
oh, hey, who would have thought? Who would have thought?
So I think that the interruption of pattern has really served me well. The other side of it is I'm very real with the fact that it has turned people away, right? Tattoos, I dress how I want. Yeah. I'm almost always in a hat. Point being, I got very real with the fact that there's not a business in the world, maybe Amazon, that is for everyone. And if you just lean into who you are and being your true authentic self, you're going to attract the people that are like you. And if you think about a happy work balance, it's about working with people that you enjoy and people that you like to be around. And then the last thing I'll say is I also had the thought process of like, if someone doesn't want to work with me or doesn't like me or trust me because of how I show up, then they're kind of a jerk and no one I want to work with anyways.
There
right?
you go.
Nice.
So business is hard. Being an entrepreneur is hard. If you're going to do it, like, you might as well do it to your own tune, you know?
But a lot of times, Sam, we're scared of finding our own tune. A lot of times we can't be Sam, right? There's times where we contradict the Sam, and then we have to surround ourselves with the right people and get back to that, being that Sam, right? So it's crazy for a lot of people. I know a lot of times it's like I'm thinking, and is this the right move? Is this the right path? But Sam just decides to do it. Like I'm taking off the uniform, which doesn't apply to me. This is my new, Superman or Sam's hero uniform and you get shit done. Like, bro, I see you in your element and you transform. And it's crazy because I got to witness you on stage speaking to a lot of people, and your what you spoke about resonated. It made me think things. I love the quote where you said, where the most successful people are the most challenged, are the most failed, and I mean you could elaborate on that more, but that's who I'm sure. You failed along the way.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure you still have fears, anxiety of things maybe not working out.
Only worse. It's only gotten worse. That old saying, more money, more problems is true. There's a couple things here. If we have time,
of course. I'm excited to have you and I think our audience is going to be very excited to have all this. So please break it down.
The first thing is, I don't think that people with influence talk about anxiety and depression and stress nearly enough because they have this shield on. Like, I'm macho, I'm this, I'm that. It's so unfair to, earlier you said, to the young bucks that are coming into this business. Like, if they only see the touchdown dances, like, and then they end up getting bruised up, like, they're going to think it's them. So one, it's like, I still struggle with anxiety and stress and all those things. And I feel like people have this misconception that if I just get to the next goal, maybe it's more money or more properties or whatever. If I just get there, then the anxiety and the stress will go away. No, it actually gets even worse because now you got more to lose. Wow. Right. And now your goals are bigger. So instead, we have to learn to get comfortable with the reality of this. This just means that you're doing what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to feel these things, and hopefully you find ways to manage it better. But the quote that you're referencing is, at the event, I said, the most successful people are the most rejected and most embarrassed people. And I really believe that to be true because if you look at, let's just say in real estate or as a mortgage lender, you have to get through maybe 100 no's before you get the yes.
Yeah.
And we attach the success and the economics of it, the money that we make, to the yes. But the reality is it's not the yes that made you the money. It's the 99 no's that you went through and you kept going, right? So if you can understand and shift that thought process that the closed deal is just the materialization of going through the 99 no's.
Nice.
The 99 rejections, the 99 times you were embarrassed. You show me someone that's had massive success, and I'll show you someone that's had way more failures than you've ever seen, right?
Yeah.
Everyone wants to be successful, but no one wants to do what it takes to get there.
Yeah.
And there's an old saying that says, the guy at the top of the mountain didn't land there. So,
why not?
Haven't figured that part out yet.
No, I like that. And you know what? Even right now, when you have your Zillows, your Redfins, I mean, there was a just big acquisition right now with Rocket taking over, Redfin. All these things are going to be impactful not only to realtors, but to us lenders. Like, I really feel these big companies are trying to take the realtor, the main person, away from that, where they can actually monopolize, their platforms.
There's always, in any industry, there's going to be this attempt of consolidation and trying to remove as much of the ancillary commission-driven parts of things. I personally don't believe that in our lifetime that's going to happen in real estate. Might it happen in the future? Yes. But still, like, real estate it's an emotional process.
Yeah.
When you're buying or selling, it's like, even I buy cars all the time. I still can't get my head around just like buying one off of Carvana and like going to a vending machine and picking it out.
Yeah.
Like, and I know the car I want and I know what I'm willing to pay, but still like, I like want to go and I want to like smell the leather. And I want to like, I want to talk to the guy.
Yeah.
Like, so when you think about that in real estate, yes, is there going to be a consolidation and is there a compression of commission? All these things, yes. But the person that stays on top of the things that matter, which is focusing on building your brand, making sure that you're paying attention and giving love to your database, your past clients, your center of influence, you continue to market, you will have your own version of what Redfin or Zillow has, which is equity in people's brain. Mm. And when you stay on top of it and you earn your equity in people's brains, then that will almost always result in continued business. So I think that the disruption is annoying, but I also think it's great.
Yeah.
And we'll see. I see it as an opportunity for growth. I see it as a great opportunity for acquisitions. You know, the event you were at.
Yeah.
I think that all these things really lends to the idea that you guys can go buy mortgage lenders.
Yeah.
You know, if you're in real estate, you can go buy brokerages or buy teams. And that is, to me, one of the quickest and most predictable paths to growth.
Gotcha.
So depends what lens you look through, but I think that we're going to be all right.
Yeah, no, of course, you're always breaking the rules. You are the guy that always breaks the rules. You know, earlier you just mentioned Amazon, but one of the things I've heard you speak about in the past is that you actually treat your business like an Amazon. You're trying to teach your community, which is your clients, your agents, how to do the same thing, you know, which is, I found it like, I listened to that last week and I'm like, dang, this guy is just onto something. Your mind is always, when is it not thinking? Like, when is it not like just, dude, it's just nonstop, you know, which is freaking phenomenal what you have to offer and how you're making people shift their mindset. Don't just stick with a regular day production of doing real estate, doing loans. Instead, you do what? Right? You're going out there and saying, well, how many people are involved in a transaction? Can you elaborate a little more on that, Sam? Because I'd rather hear it from you.
Are you talking about the like ancillary revenue stuff?
Yes.
So yeah, to me, I came into real estate like full time as owning a brokerage with a bit of internet marketing experience and affiliate marketing. And something I learned very early on is that the person that controls a transaction can control the ancillary revenues. And when you start to think about a real estate transaction, the wake that creates, it's greater than the ship.
Yeah.
The wake is bigger than the ship. We have isolated, and it's growing, about 90 different companies, businesses that create commerce revenue on a real estate transaction. So let's say 5 of them are RESPA regulated.
Okay.
Which, for those of us that don't know what that means, it's a law that
it's another
stupid.
parent.
Thank you.
It's another parent.
Stupid law. But essentially, it's like you can't pay referral fees for settlement services. But everything else is wide open. So we took the thought process of, look, we know that we have these people's customer before they do. So if we can make the introductions to a moving company, to a handyman, to solar, the list goes on and on. If we can make the introductions, then we should get rewarded, compensated for that. And that has been a big thing for us, is understanding the flywheel of a transaction, and then saying, okay, all of these different companies are creating revenue. Now we can either go to them and set up an affiliate relationship where every time I send you a customer, you're paying me X percentage.
Yeah.
Or we could set up like an MSA, which is a monthly like marketing service agreement where they pay you a flat fee per month, or you can go buy a company that does that. So when we started, we started with MSAs and affiliates, and the companies that we saw we were making the biggest impact on were the companies that we reached out to and tried to buy.
Nice.
So to me, there's so much opportunity in looking at the revenue and, profit that lives and surrounds a real estate transaction.
Yeah.
That most people don't look at.
Well, you've already vetted a lot of these people, which is great, and you're representing, a client that's going to make the largest purchase of their life. So you want to vet the right people and send them in the right direction. Always, it's not about the monetary side of things. It's just you've worked with them so many times. So it's like, hey, instead of you advertising, I'm going to use the yellow pages, give them my age right here, right? But instead of advertising, paying Craigslist and all that stuff, well, we have me. Yeah. And that's really all you're doing is you're just, you're like paying marketing to have a good relationship with us.
It's 100% what it is. I mean, look, as a business owner, would you rather drop $500 on a yellow page ad that is unquantifiable?
Yeah.
Would you rather spend $500 on Facebook ads that you don't know what's going to happen? Or would you rather just pay me for a referral that I hand you?
All day long.
Right? Those referrals come with less objections. They move quicker. They're in a buying decision state. So the business is going to spend money if they're trying to grow. They're going to spend money either way.
Yeah.
And they would much rather pay you a referral fee for bringing them their ideal customer as opposed to throwing it into Zuckerberg's hands and Google's hands and just hoping and praying that it's going to turn into something.
Yeah, exactly. No, thank you for sharing that.
So you operate 100% commission brokerage, and a lot of people were just, not, in tune with that and maybe said, hey, that's not going to work. All these years forward, how has that changed? And, how has that helped you guys propel?
Yeah, great question. When we decided to start Big Block, I was in this transition. I was flipping homes, and I wanted to stay in real estate. And I thought to myself, I was actually in a mastermind. Everyone's talking in the mastermind. It was an investor mastermind. Everyone's talking about buying long-term assets to create residual cash flow as opposed to flipping homes. And I'm like, oh, man, residual, I like that.
Yeah.
What can I do in real estate that creates residual income that is a bit of a disruption that I feel like I have the connections for? And I thought to myself, man, I bet you that I can get agents to pay, let's say, $300 a month for 100% commission, because I've never met an agent that doesn't want to make more money. And I was like, man, I bet you I could get, 500 agents to pay me $300 a month, and that's $150,000 a month. And I was like, that wouldn't suck
At all.
So started with that, and now today, I'd say the 100% model is one of the primary models in our industry today.
Yeah.
So we grew that to, I want to say, the 37th largest independent brokerage in the country.
Dang.
Let's go.
Thank you.
Bro, that's awesome, man.
And then recently we were getting ready to do our own IPO, where we're buying real estate companies and we were going to take it public. And then we met Robert Palmer, who's the CEO of LPT, and just had a lot of synergies, and we ended up doing a merger with them. Yeah. So now we're in all 50 states in Canada. Our recruiting is, just expanded. We're, it's only a few months in, but we've 3x'd our conversions on recruiting. And now we have a built-in IPO and all the things, plus, other benefits that we didn't have prior. And I got to say this, it's important. This is not a pitch for LPT or Big Block or anything. It's a pitch for understanding that you can't close a door until you know what's on the other side.
Nice.
And I will be the first to admit that sometimes I've done that in my life. I was on national shows and stages debating with leaders of these revenue share cloud-based brokerages, and I was just mopping them up because I didn't believe in the way that it had been done before. Then LPT came and they completely changed it. But my point is, if you would have told me 2 years ago that I would have merged into and now helping run a cloud-based revenue share brokerage, I would have told you that you're high. But the lesson there, and this is something I learned from one of my mentors, is even if you're not interested, you always take the meeting, because you don't know what's on the other side, and you might learn some things that can help you adjust your business to where you want it to be. I have 3 commas tattooed on my hand because I've always, my goal is to be a billionaire. So as the business starts to grow, everyone reaches out to try to buy the business. And we had no intention of selling, but I would always take the meetings so I could ask them, all right, what has to be true in our business for it to be worth $1 billion? So then from real live buyers, they're saying, well, you got to have X, Y, Z. And that was ultimately what we took back and said, all right, to get to the 9th zero, these are the things that are important. Let's start focusing on that. So
I like that.
Goes right into my next question. What does the 9th zero symbolize for you? But I mean, I think you kind of explained that right there.
Yeah. So my Instagram,
your Instagram handle.
My Instagram handle is the 9th zero with the number 9.
Yeah.
And then TH and 0 spelled out. You have to have 9 zeros to have $1 billion.
Yeah.
So my business life is the pursuit of the 9th zero.
Yeah.
Wow.
Or 3 commas. So yeah,
you're like either or, whichever one comes first.
No.
So it's awesome. That's just, again, I'm Persian, right? Like we're bred to like nice things.
Yeah.
And
no,
there's nothing wrong with that.
and some people get offended. They're like, nobody needs that much money.
Yeah, we do.
I'm like, yeah. I mean,
have you ever had that much money?
But I do.
Absolutely.
But the thing is like, I want all the nice things, but here's the thing that most people don't really think about. Like when I talk about, I need to have a G6, which is, a great private jet. Some people are like, why the hell would you need that? It's so unnecessary. It's such a waste. Great. That's true for you. But I want you to think about how many lives I've changed along the way and how much has poured over into my family in the pursuit of getting that G6, right? You don't go spend $50 million on a jet without having tens and tens and tens of millions of dollars that have poured into your community, into your people, into your family, into, by the time I have the G6, all of my parents' mortgages will be paid off. My kids will have, plenty of
legacy.
Yeah, legacy and money put away in a trust. There'll be so much impact that happens before the G6, but the G6 or the crazy cars or whatever it is, that's what brainwashes me to do the shit I don't want to do on a regular basis.
Yeah. But at that point in time too, you need those write-offs. And that's what other people don't understand is like, these things are write-offs. People don't buy jets just to buy them. They see the opportunity of taking a full write-off on that full purchase. And then they can utilize it as a business. Because it's always going to sit and it's got its maintenance. So guess what? I'll go ahead and lease it out so that other people can pay my maintenance too. Yeah. And I mean, I know that's how creative you're going to get with all of that.
Looking at it from the lens of like, doing it for your family and kind of having that be that, that forced multiplier in your motivation, I think I look at it in a beautiful way. It's like when the tide rises, it rises for everybody. So you're just the crusader that decided to say, I'll take this journey and I'll make sure that, I do it for my family.
Yeah.
That's very cool. Admirable.
I want to go and thank you so much for sharing your view with LPT. I mean, LPT stands for Listing Tools Power Tools.
Listing Power Tools.
Listing Power Tools. Phenomenal guy. The guy started, in the mortgages, and built a multi-billion-dollar, sold it, and now is in the real estate. And he's just utilizing the same skills he used before, applying them in the real estate world, which is pretty crazy because you mentioned, here I am. I'm not going to do this MLM or I'm not going to do this profit share, but here I am. I'm now surrounding myself with another genius, you know, which is one of your biggest mentors is Roland Frazier.
Yep.
I mean, the guy's phenomenal. Talking about surrounding yourself with the right people. Earlier you mentioned, you know what? I'm going to be casual. This is who I am. I got attracted to you because you are who you are, you know? And in life, one thing I teach my kids is you got to just bring that. Whoever there's the naysayers, just get away from that. There's more people that are going to like you and love you for who you are, you know? And here you are surrounding yourself with, dude, I met Roland Frazier, the most humblest guy. This guy can buy whatever he wants,
And
you
he
know?
does.
Right?
Did you ever think that after in 2014 selling, mastermind subscriptions for him, you'd actually partner up with them and have them be part of your journey and your growth in the industry?
100%.
And did you do that strategically, knowing like, hey, if I could get in this way, I'm gonna build a relationship like this, but with the end goal of having him be my partner?
That was the driving force of all of it.
Go.
I was 100% certain that if I got in his world and did enough to make him, one, know who I am, two, pay attention, and three, like me, that I could end up being in business with him. So that was full throttle, 100% the plan. And probably 3 or so years into being in his mastermind, he came to do a little speech at our office, and he's like, give me a tour after the training. And we're doing a little tour. And, we walk by this room, a big empty room that used to be our call center. And he's like, why is this room empty? And I was like, oh, it's because of all the things I learned in your mastermind. I don't need to have cold callers anymore. Like we're growing. And I saw his like eyes light up. And then the next day I get the call. He's like, hey, like I was thinking we should figure out how we can work together on this company of yours. So then again, another touchdown dance.
That's crazy.
Did you play it like, yeah, all right, cool, and then,
Yeah.
yes, all right, what can we meet?
Yes. In fact, he talks about this all the time. I was trying to be the version of him, or what I thought he wanted me to be in the negotiation. It took us 2 years to close the deal.
Wow.
Because I was trying to be Roland, which in hindsight, I probably would have done it different and just got him on sooner.
Yeah.
But we're negotiating this thing for 2 years, and I kept throwing stuff in. I remember, like, we're on our final term sheet, and then I threw in, okay, all these terms plus 2 gold Rolexes.
Oh.
and he does it. He just starts laughing. He's like,
Yeah, me too. Like I thought it was gonna be something more like business, like structured. 2 gold Rolexes.
yeah.
Is that the one that you're wearing now?
No.
No.
He didn't end up.
Dang it.
That got scratched off the term sheet. But yeah, now he's in Big Block with us. And we own several businesses together, like Mango Automotive, which is a chain of auto repair shops.
Oh,
wow. We run Epic together. Now we're business partners on a bunch of things.
That's awesome.
And it's wild to think about back then, just having a major man crush on this guy to today. I mean, you were just there last week. I'm, his business partner and running the events that
Crazy.
has Roland's.
You're literally running
brand.
the event. It's crazy. And how many times have you actually done change spark plugs, Sam, to own an automotive business? Because when we
I don't even know how to spell spark.
I was gonna ask, how much of those business do you actually day to day in run, or or actually working in the business? And it brings me to the next question. You mentioned you're always above the business and not in the business. Can you share that strategy of how you implement that into your businesses that you currently run? Because now you have multiple.
Yeah. So if you read the E-Myth or you've been to any seminar, they always talk about you're either in the business or on the business. You're either working in or on. You'd rather be on versus in, but when you're working on the business, you're still in the business. You want to be above the business, kind of like a board member. right? The chairman of the board.
Yeah.
So that you are not on the org chart. You are not having to push buttons. You only do the things you want to do and have a team of awesome people that can push the buttons better than you can arguably push them yourself.
Yeah.
So one of the first things that Roland helped me with is the mental frame around, I got to do it myself because I'm so good, right?
The ego.
Which is just ego.
Yeah.
I'm also pretty damn good. But
there's that ego.
but there's people that are better than me and in individual tasks. And, he's like, you have to remember, Sam, there's people that love to do the things you hate to do. And there's people that are really good at doing the things you're not good at doing. So if we start to remove you out of the org chart and put people in there, then, you'll have more time so you can own more businesses and, kind of diversify, your holdings and you'll just not just be rich, but be rich and happy.
Dang, man.
And that's the thing about Roland. Like, the guy is just always ear to ear smiling. Like, you heard me say at the event, I always do this joke where the guy doesn't walk. He just kind of like floats through life.
Oh, he's here. He's there. There he is. He's appeared.
And, he's the experiences that this guy has created for his wife and his family, and even for me, it's astonishing. It's remarkable. But he's only been able to do that because any business that we get into, we make sure that it either has an operating partner that runs the day-to-day or that we're going to install one. So, with Mango Automotive, I've actually never even stepped foot in one of our locations.
Where are they located, actually? I've never...
Like New Mexico.
Okay, that's what I was saying. Yeah. It must be somewhere outside of California.
Yeah. So we started that with our partner, Jesse,
nice.
2 years ago. She has also never been... She doesn't know how to turn a wrench or anything. So we started that 2 years ago, and our business model is auto repair, but we also service electric vehicles, but we rebrand them and make them, like when you walk into a Mango Automotive, it's like walking into a spa. It's like pretty, it's nice. It's
it's like for your car though. Oh.
No, but I mean for the person.
Oh, as well?
Yeah.
Not an
When are you bringing them to California? No,
I'm saying, like, when you walk into an auto repair shop, there's like a Sports Illustrated magazine, a pot of burnt coffee.
Yeah.
Behind the desk, there's, a girl in a bikini poster.
There you go.
It's just
It's
nowhere that I would want to send my wife.
Yeah.
To, right? So we completely rebranded them, and, there's females behind the counter, and it's, pink walls and a fridge with like Celsius and, anyways.
The experience.
Yeah, we grew that in 2 years from 0 locations to now 7 locations. And I don't know how to turn a wrench. I've never stepped foot in any of the locations. But again, Jessie, she's the CEO. She's the founder. She runs the day-to-day. She has an operating person that knows how to turn wrenches and manages all the technicians. And I get to just do the things that I'm good at to support that business.
That's pretty awesome because, when I just see Sam, I'm like thinking big block, real estate. But here you are diversified in so many sectors of business. So last week when I got to see you at Epic, it was pretty cool. I'm like, when I'm sitting there, like, because you just invited me as a guest, you didn't tell me what it was about. You just said, do you have time to come? And I'm like, I'm not going to miss out on this opportunity to be surrounded by this winner. So I go to it, and the first thing that I start seeing, I'm like, oh my God, this reminds me of Richard Gere, Pretty Woman. He's doing these acquisitions of the multiple different types of businesses, and it's just pretty awesome to see. I know in my mindset, it transitions elsewhere. I just can't look at my business just as lending. There's more for me to be, diverse with. So with me, it's like, obviously you told us how you handle all this vertical integration that you're doing in businesses. For me, it's like an overload. It's like I have the opportunity to join this, but I'm like, dang, I'm like scratching my head like, how am I going to implement this now in my daily life? How do you manage your time?
Well, that's the opportunity and the challenge what I mean by that is most people are looking through the lens that you are right now about how this is a challenge. There's too much to do, which means most of them won't do it, which then means it's the opportunity.
Yeah.
So my suggestion for you or for really anyone is think about your core business, and we have the before, during, and after rule, which is what happens with your customer before they're your customer. What are they doing while they're your customer, and what are they doing after they are done being your customer? So maybe someone that is doing a loan, after they get into the house, what are they going to do? They might be buying furniture. They might be getting a new pool. They might be, a list
Painting,
goes on and on.
yeah.
And you start to think, okay, these are the before. What happens before? There's media, there's resources, there's a lot, right? So then you kind of make the list of before, during, after, and then you find the ones that you're attracted to. I'm looking at like the pool space right now because the margins are pretty exciting.
Pretty nice, yeah.
So, okay, people install pools. I have the customers. I have the database. I can go to the pool company and I can do a straight acquisition. But there's two types of businesses. There's businesses that the owner operates, which are called owner operated.
Yeah.
Or there's businesses that are professionally managed, which means the owner does not have to show up. So if I buy a business that is owner operated, that is professionally managed,
Yeah.
then I don't have to worry about pushing buttons. And then as you scale, like my president of the companies, he is the manager of all of our operating managers.
Got it.
So everyone reports to Corey and us get together about once a week to look at everything. So if you acquire a box that fits your perfect avatar, meaning it's professionally managed, you already have the database, the clients, etc. It's a lot easier than we allow ourselves to think that it is.
Yeah.
And then there's another approach to it, which is something we do a lot of. So, which is Mango Automotive, is consulting for equity. So I didn't go start Mango. I'm not the primary owner of Mango, but I have a set of skills that could support Mango. And I came in as a consultant that gets equity inside of the business for supporting. So as you start to think about the businesses before, during, or after, or even something outside of it that you want to be in, you can always just take the consulting for equity route.
Yeah.
And that's a great place to live.
That's awesome, man. No, it's really impressive, all the things that you do and how you're doing it. And I mean, not only are you conducting your business and making it very profitable, you're aligning yourself with the right people, and you do so much for your community. Like, bro, that's a lot of good stuff. Yeah, I'm just doing a couple little things here and there, and I feel like, all right, pat yourself on the back, and there's nothing wrong with that, right?
You gotta pat yourself on the back.
Yeah, you have to. Yeah,
There
and
it is.
earlier you mentioned,
Me too, bro. Come on.
earlier you mentioned you became a part of Roland by going into his mastermind group. I feel the same way right now. I'm part of LPT, and Travis Winfield, who happened to make that call to you, that kind of changed a lot of the way you're thinking. And I don't know if you know this, but I helped Travis get into the real estate business, so which is pretty wild. I'm like, well, Travis, there you are. But I helped him.
Travis is a
He
good
was
guy.
PCSing from Italy here, and he was all about just going to USAA or Navy Fed to get his loan. And then next thing you know, we chopped it up with some Costco sushi, and then that changed this whole demeanor of where I'm going to go, what route. Like, I like this personal stuff, And then fast forward 4 years later, I told him, bro, you should get your license. You'd be so good at this. And then look at him.
Yeah.
Now, part of LPT, I love this new decision. I know he was with EXP. He was once with Big Block. The guy is just always figuring out, how do I surround myself with winners? How do I who's going to help me take my idea to the next level?
100%.
And we're so used to not having partners, but yet you always say, like, I'd rather have partners. I don't care if I'm 2% partner on this. Tell us a little more about that.
Yeah. I don't own 100% of any business that I own. because I want to have partners that can run the day to day, and I don't need all the money. I want some of the money, and I want to be happy. So to me, the thought process is I don't believe there's a shortcut to success except for the people and the environments you put yourself in.
Damn.
Right? So I talked about this at the event, which is in my life and in my businesses, I always want to find a co-pilot. And the reason I like the term co-pilot is because, like probably most of us, you haven't heard the story yet, have you? Mm-hmm. Okay. Do you ever get any sort of feelings when you get on a plane and put your life in someone else's hands?
Well, yeah, I mean, like if they're not doing their job,
yes.
Yeah, if they're not the professional, if they're not qualified, like, yo, my life's at risk.
Yeah.
You'll go on, let's say delta.com,
yeah.
You'll book some tickets, you have no idea who the pilot is, you never checked his resume or her resume, you have no idea. It could be their first damn flight. You book the tickets, you get on the plane, you have the feelings, you do it. You still jump on the plane and you go. The question is why?
Because you have to get to where you need to be, and you have to trust the person that's taking you there.
Yes and yes, but do you want to get there more than you want to live?
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, yeah, because I'm getting on and I'm going.
I'll tell you why you do it. You do it because you and the pilot have the exact same desired outcome, which is to land at your final destination alive.
Mm.
So.
Damn.
Wow.
That's another nugget right there. That's, bro.
So when you have operating partners or co-pilots that have the same exact desired outcome, don't die.
Get there safe.
Get there safe. It gives you the opportunity to be more above the business and lean on people that can do the day-to-day. And, the joke amongst my partners and Corey, my operating partner is a partner on everything that we do, is Sam goes out and tries to break shit and Corey has to fix it. And that's how I can do so much is like, I'm a thinker, I'm a builder, I'm a creator. And in the mix of that, there's wake, there's turbulence. And with him as my co-pilot, like he always figures out how to land the plane properly.
Yeah. I like that. You unintentionally might break shit trying to build things up.
And they always say to run a good, successful business, you have to have the visionary and the integrator. Because a lot of times when we have two visionaries, like we're just butting heads and nothing's getting done, right? Because I know if it was up to me, things would not get done. Luckily for my wife, she's an integrator. She helps me kind of stay the lane. Hey, you're getting too excited. Get over here, so
shoot this way.
I like that. And I'm not going to say the B word because I know that's something you don't like is balance, and you always say there's nothing. I disagree with that. It's more sacrifice.
Yes. I don't think balance is real. I think it's a cute thought, right? I wish that I could feel balanced, but it's practically impossible. Because if you're trying to do anything of much significance, you can't be balanced. So last week I was gone all week doing that event. If in that moment I'm trying to be balanced, it's just impossible. Like I would rather be in the backyard playing basketball with my kids or playing Barbie with my daughter, right? Like, so I can't be balanced, but I can get comfortable with sacrifice, which is when I'm being a good business person, I'm sacrificing in that moment being a good family person.
Nice.
And when I'm being a good family person, I then in that moment are sacrificing being a good business person.
Yeah.
So, for me, it's just little things like generally around 6:00 at night, my phone goes on do not disturb. And like, I'm trying to be present. And when I go on vacation, like everybody knows that like, you just can't get a hold of me. Like I check out,
as it should.
So I think that sacrifice is the key to trying to feel balanced.
That's well put.
Yeah, I like that.
In all the rooms you've been, all the mentorships, seminars, places you spoke at, what would you say the one business advice that you could, put into words that come from every experience that you've been through?
Oh man, that's
Yeah,
tough.
that's a good one.
I think that what I have learned is that success starts and ends with the environment you put yourself in. So, you've heard it growing up. If you hang out with smokers, you're going to be a smoker. If you hang out with athletes, you're going to be an athlete. If you hang out with gangbangers, you're probably going to be a gangbanger. The environment you put yourself in changes the way you look at things, changes your perspective on opportunity. It changes the way you count, right? Like before I was in Roland, the first mastermind with Roland, like I used to count in thousands. And then I started to count in hundreds of thousands. And then I started to count in millions. And then, now we're talking about 9 zeros, right? This is important because it changes the way you look at opportunity. And I remember like the first mastermind I was in, and I was at the time probably 24 years old, like almost cup of noodles broke. And I'm sitting next to this 16-year-old kid from Ukraine, 16 years old, and the kid's netting $1 million a month.
Oh my goodness.
And I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I doing with my life? Like I suck. But like that really impacts the way you look at things, right?
Yeah.
The possibility of opportunity. And so I'd say my biggest piece of advice is understand that success leaves clues. And when you put yourself in the right room with the right people, they're going to drop little clues and you just pick them up and be the best damn copycatter you can, right? Like if someone is where you want to be, try to copy as much of that shit as possible.
Yeah.
Right? Like our ego wants us to reinvent it and do it our way. Cool. Do you want to be right or do you want to be rich?
Yeah.
Right? I'd rather be rich.
I like that.
And I'll give credit to the person that was right.
Yeah.
Right? The person that spent the time trying to figure out how to do it the
Yeah.
right way. So yeah, I'm a great copycatter. I listen to people that have achieved what I want, and I try to copycat that into my businesses.
Yeah. And that's the key you just said right there. I listen. I always say to myself, like, I'm an old dog that likes to learn new tricks. Even though I know I have ego, I still want to learn. I still want to put myself in an environment where I can be a better resource. And I'm always trying to be a better resource, not for myself, because it always starts with yourself. So that way you can give back, and that's my whole goal is how do I become a better person? So personal development's a lot. And you talking about listening, I'm going to rewind it all the way back to your son going being a basketball player, because I love that story, because you're teaching it to your young ones. You're teaching it to yourself. You're teaching it to your, to the big block community, and now LPT, which we're very fortunate to be a part of with you there. But I love that story, how you're teaching your son and he listened in his own way. Tell us about that, man. It's spending his money the wrong way.
So to kind of frame it at the events, I talk about in business, you want to turn into someone else, right? You want to go from, I got this much money to this much money. My business is this size. I want to be this size, which is your new identity. So to have a new identity that actually comes to life, that means you have to change your priorities. So new identity, new priorities. And I love to try to bring things to life in stories and real life examples. I watched my son's identity change in an instant. Both his identity and his priorities.
Yeah.
So I'm going to try to say this in the fewest amount of words, but at the time he's probably 7-ish years old. And like most kids his age, anytime he had allowance or money to spend, he would just go buy the same crappy plastic toy in a different version.
There you go.
For him back then, it was Disney cars. The kid had like 600 of these cars. And then he got into Pokemon cards a little bit, and then he discovered basketball cards, and he's a big basketball fan, as we know. So we end up getting a booth at a card convention, like a card show where people come to buy and sell cards.
Yeah.
And when you have the booth, you have a little sign up that says we buy cards. So you go there and you try to buy cards at like 50% of comp and then resell them and make the profit. So right before the show, he had like a couple $100, and he decides to buy this Iron Man helmet.
Oh, that's bad.
And I told him, I'm like, yeah, it is badass. It's cool. But I was like, son, we're going to the show tomorrow or this weekend. And if you spend your money on this, I promise you're going to regret it when we get to the card show because you're not going to have money. He says, no, Dada, no, I want it. I'm going to be okay, Dada. Okay, son. So we buy it. Get to the show. A few days later, I'm like buying cards left and right, selling cards. Someone walks up and it has one of his favorite players, Anthony Davis from the Lakers.
Yeah.
It's a gold card. There's only 10 of them autographed. And the card is worth $120. I negotiate and I buy it for $60.
Oh, okay.
My son Cash looks at me. He's like, Dada, you got me that card. I'm like, no, son. Remember I told you, you decided that the helmet was more important than the card. You just didn't know it. And I tried to tell you that you're going to regret this. And he starts crying, and everything in me wanted to give him the card. But what was more important was giving him the lesson.
Oh, that was such a good
So
Crazy, bro. That was tough. Sorry.
It was tough. And to make it even worse, less than 5 minutes later, I put the card in the case. Some guy comes and buys the card for me for $120. So not only did he see me buy the card and not give it to him, he saw the card leave, and he saw Dad double his money in like 5 minutes. Right then and there, his identity and his priorities changed. So like a couple weeks later, my wife's out of town. I take the kids to a toy store, and I give them each a budget. And I'm in the Barbie aisle with my daughter, and my son comes running around the corner, and he's like, Dada! I'm like, yes, son.
I must meet your son. He's so dumb.
I love that, man.
Dada, I found something that's going to make us rich. Okay, what is it? And he found boxes of basketball cards. And he's like, which one do you think is going to make us richer? And I said,
I love it.
I don't know, buddy, but I like the way you're thinking. So fast forward to today, he's about to turn 10. He probably has, $10,000, $15,000 worth of cards that he's just, accumulated over the course of time. He's always has several $100s in the bank with us to buy and sell cards. And we started a business together where we do live streaming shows and sell cards, and we go to card shows and we're partners. Like we split the booth. we split the
dope.
hotel cost. I pay for the food because that
It's Dada.
yeah,
Dada.
that's Dada.
To the hotel split. That's so dope. Hey,
And
business
it's-
partners.
Yeah, and he's learned a lot.
That's
and,
good.
That decision to not give him that card in that moment is what triggered his identity and his priorities changing. And the lesson there is, I think people drift in life because they do what's easy instead of what's right.
Wow. Yeah.
When you do what's right instead of what's easy, it's tough. But when you do what's right, it results in moments like I had with my son and where he is today.
That was powerful, bro. That was just, for me, I was like, when I was listening, I was getting emotional thinking about it, because people who are fathers and want what's best for our kids, that resonates. Yeah. It makes so much sense, and just not at home. And you're one of the guys that I say you're wearing your heart in your sleeve, because I can tell just the way you are, the way you carry yourself, the family man that you are. It just, again, that resonated, got me a little emotional when I was listening the first time, because that's what we need to do more of. That's how we teach the younger generation to change that identity, change their priorities, and know that, it can happen at any moment. It doesn't matter how old you are. It's never too late, right? I'm 52. It's never too late.
It's never too late.
No.
That impacted me. So it's never too late.
Sam, thank you for sharing that. I mean, it's just a beautiful lesson in delayed gratification, patience, understanding, your situation. And ultimately, I mean, I wish we could keep you here all day and just continue to talk. But, we have to let you go. Is there anything that you wanted to share, maybe highlight that we didn't get to touch on, that you wanted to, leave the audience with a few last words?
Look, at the end of the day, I'm just some dude in front of a mic and on a camera. And you guys have done a great job of like, you know, making me feel great and talking about all the accolades. But my takeaway is, we just touched on this. It's never too late. You are just one good campaign, one good idea, one good execution away from your life completely changing. And in life, we have to do the hard things so that we can have the easy life. So if I can support anybody, you know, find me on Instagram. I do a ton of calls and Zooms, all for free. And
What? For free?
yeah, free.
That's crazy. You know, that's awesome, man. Sam, how can people get a hold of you? I know you're recruiting. You're always recruiting. You're always trying to bring a great family to your business, because that's our foundation, is having good family, good clients, which is your realtor partners. You know, where can people find you?
Yeah, so either Instagram, which is, again, my handle is the, spelled out, THE, 9, TH, and then 0 spelled out, the 9th 0. Or you can just text me. Don't call, text. Is it okay if I share my phone number?
Of course, it's up to you.
I mean, it's up to you.
I already have you on speed dial, so.
So my cell phone number is 858-518-1533. Shoot me a text. Any way I can help, I'd be happy to try.
I tell you guys, take advantage of this man. This guy's a wealth of knowledge, opportunist. Like, if we're having tough times, just know this guy will take us to that next. He'll help us level up, essentially, is what it is. You know,
I'll try.
I spent 2 days with you, and you didn't talk for the whole 2 days, but you talked, you know, for a couple hours, and I got impacted. I came back. I got to put my shit on gear here. I got to go. You inspire. You're very inspiring. And to know that you're putting yourself in a vulnerability state by saying, I'm just a normal dude. Look at my clothes. Look at this, dude. Like, I'm chilling. You're comfortable. You have your superhero suit on right now, you know? And so I just love that about you, Sam. And I'm telling you, I feel right now that it's like I cut a lemon and I'm squeezing so much out of you, but I still haven't squeezed everything, you know? So would you, and on camera, would you, again, participate with this? Because I want to break down more LPT, what's going to happen once it becomes IPO. I want to get more.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd be down. You're saying come back here for another podcast?
Yeah. That's it. Yes.
Yeah.
We want to have you more. And obviously, we want to support your journey as well. So I've been loving you. I go on Instagram, just like hitting the heart. So don't think like this guy's just crazy. I just
like
want
a
to be
man
supportive.
crush. Sounds like a man crush over there.
But it is. You know? It is, but it isn't. But it is. Like, dude, I am just so at awe, you know, of who you are and what you're becoming. So I appreciate that.
I'd love to come back. I appreciate the invite. Absolutely. And we could talk more about whatever you want, LPT, all the things. So, yeah, I appreciate
All
you
right.
guys.
Sam, thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, friends and family, thank you so much for joining us. Sam Khorramian, Big Block Realty, so much more to come. Thank you guys for joining us.
Yeah.
Thank you.